And we're live. We're not.
It's not really live.
It's not really live. We are alive. It is a great time to be alive. It's a wild time to be alive. It is. We live on a wild timeline for many reasons. One of which is that your costs are going to increase next year as an affiliate owner, just as a statement of fact. So, Christian,
are you talking like me, or are you talking about like the listener specifically?
Anybody that is listening to this podcast, your costs are going to increase going into 2026. Let's hope that they don't. Let's hope that this talk of, obliterating the federal income tax is real, and that maybe mitigates this entire show, and that we could just delete this whole thing. That'd be great. Okay. I'm not planning on that, and you shouldn't either if you're listening to this. So really what we're going to talk about is, how do you start planning financially for the next year? So what we're going to talk about, this podcast will be relevant every year moving forward. And there's a couple things that I want to highlight. So if you're an affiliate owner, you have very likely been through this cycle, which is you set goals for next year, right? So it's the end of 2025 right now. You're like, I've got 2026 goals. I want to hit X number of members and I want to hit this much revenue. And the very often outcome of that is nothing, having been that person many times. So I want to talk about putting yourself in a better place to actually hit that goal. And part of that is like reverse engineering. What does that number mean, right? So like we could use hard numbers and we could say, hey, I want to do 30% increase in revenue, or I want to hit whatever. You're at 150 members and you want to get to 175. This is no different than saying, hey, I want to lose weight. How much, by when, like the good old SMART goals, but then really being able to break down the math on this. But a lot of this is, most people are not considering this right now, or they're thinking about it, but they don't really know that you absolutely should make adjustments to this, because there are things that you don't have control over that are going to increase your costs. And I would say, having been in the affiliate space for almost 20 years, almost 18 of which is an affiliate owner, there's really two things that put an affiliate out of business. One is they just don't treat it like a business, right? That's the one that'll get your head lopped off the fastest. The second one is they die a slow death due to this topic right here, which is they're just not making the adjustments. And there's so many different variations of this topic, but it's just like not either correcting or planning for pricing structure adjustments moving forward. And there's two buckets of this that we're talking about today that you need to consider. One are, what are the self-inflicted wounds? And then what are the things that you don't have control over that are going to happen whether you like it or not? So I've done them all. I've made all the mistakes with regard to this topic you could ever make. I don't know. Were you able to avoid any of these, Christian?
Like avoid some of the mistakes that came up?
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Like I bought a gym, and then that was de-affiliated, and then like did an asset acquisition. So it was technically a new business, but I did inherit some of the things that we're going to talk about today that I had to navigate changing my community to.
Yeah.
So sort of like yes and no. I had to deal with somebody else's problem, so I was able to avoid that moving forward, but I did have to kind of clean up in order to move in the right direction.
Yeah, so whether you have to clean up somebody else's mess or you just have to clean up your own mess, the outcome is really the same. So let's just start with under the basic premises that you should make adjustments. I want to highlight why. So if you're not thinking about this, my goal is to convince you that you absolutely should be thinking about this. And I would go even further to say this, like, you actually don't have a choice. You can choose to not interact with the things that are going to happen, or you can choose to interact with the things that happen. And again, there are certain things that you have control over, and there are certain things you do not have control over. So
to make it sound like a little less like nebulous, basically what you're saying is like next year costs are going to go up, and you obviously want to grow your gym. And so we need to actually have like a real plan to grow your gym, opposed to being that person at the end of the year that looks at your revenue and looks at your numbers and you're like, how did I not grow and I made less money?
I will go even one step further, and I will say this, like, if you do not do this, you will very likely just make less money next year. If you ran the exact same playbook, you did everything the same, you will just make less money next year. Like, that will just be the outcome of that. So, and I don't think that's the goal for anybody listening to this podcast. I don't think that's the goal as a business owner. I don't think that's the goal as a coach. And because that is the case, like, we have to do something about it. Now, the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? What I want to focus on today is like convincing you that you should be paying attention to this, because that day is coming whether you like it or not, right? Tomorrow will come, the prices will go up, and the only question will be is, did you plan for that or did you not plan for that? But I do want to talk about not just like in the 30,000 foot level. I do want to make some of these things a little bit more granular. So let's start with the things that you do not have control over, right? So there's an interesting matrix, but like thinking about like things that that are predictable versus controllable, right? So we're gonna talk controllables right now, and we're gonna talk non-controllables that you just have to deal with them no matter what. And we kind of were joking about it earlier, but one of them is inflation. So inflation is this kind of weird nebulous monster. Like, what is it real? What's the actual number? How does it work? All that other kind of stuff. But like, we can all assume that it has gone up in the past 5 years. Maybe it'll go up, maybe it'll go down, but it's definitely up over the past years. Therefore, decreasing your buying power, right? So if you had $5 5 years ago, that $5 will not buy the same thing today. Like, it will buy probably half of that. So just to kind of quantify this, pull up this screen here real quick, Christian. So like, these are the inflation rates over the past 15 years. And if obviously 2021, 22, these are post-COVID, 7, 6.5, 3.5, 2.9, 3. And for the just to quantify this, these are compounding. So this is not just a flat number to increase. It's 3%. This is 7% from this 1.4%. That's 6.5 on top of this 7%. That's 3.4 on top of that 6.5 on top of the 7. So if you understand this math, if you held the same rates in 2021 and you've not made an adjustment, we could easily assume that like the dollars that you're making have, I don't know, 15 to 20% less value than they had.
Right, which is why when you go to the store, milk's more expensive, gas is more expensive, and if you're not increasing your rates in the same way that they do that at the grocery store, then you're bringing in the same amount of like number dollars, but now they're worth less.
Right, and the whole idea with this is like, I understand that people don't feel comfortable all the time raising rates, or they may not even want to in that scenario. But the point that I'm bringing up is that like, there are just certain things that you don't have control over, and you don't have to like this, but it is a thing that should be factored into you running a business. That's it. Okay. Like other things that are going to go up, like I was just trying to pull electricity rates. So like, these are the average percentage changes by state. Let me like zoom in here a little bit. Like, some of these are crazy, right? And
like I'm in Florida and it went up 12%.
Dude, Illinois is 20%, right? So like, whatever your utility bill was is 20% increase. Like, I was trying to look at some of mine, like I was looking at some of my numbers, like just costs that I don't have control over from 24 to 25. Utilities went up 20%, insurance went up 3%, rent went up 3%, and my internet alone went up 33%. Like, and we're talking percentages right now, but like, I want to highlight like what that means. All of those, to me, at the end, like total cost accumulated in those increases over one calendar year is almost $11,000.
Yeah, so you have to account for, okay, my members are the same, my revenue's the same. Next year, 2026 is going to cost me 10 grand more.
It's going to cost me 10 grand more to operate, which means if I don't make 10 grand, I'm just going to eat 10 grand right out of the gate. And again, going back to where we started, and you can take this off, Christian, is like, this is one of the hidden killers of affiliates, is that they're not accounting for this. And if I'm not able to outpace that with growth, then I'm like, why did this year get worse than last year? Everything kind of feels the same. I'm like, well, there's uncontrollables in the market that you're not accounting for. And again, whether you get freaked out by numbers or not is not really the point. The point is like you have to know that those costs are going up and you have to account for them. Um, and there's multiple ways to do that, right? So like again, we listed a bunch of different things in there. Like for instance, like and obviously the percentage is based on the gross number year over year, right? So it's like, okay, this is why I always like to tell people, like, hey, your rent goes up 3% every year. Well, over a 4-year period, you're talking about a pretty substantial increase. It's not 3% anymore. Over a 4-year period, you're talking about this could be upwards of 20%, right? Compounding, or like my rent used to be like $8,500 for the same
Yeah,
space I'm in right now. It's
I
it's
just did
10.5.
I just did the
10.5. It's
math. So it's
24.
like over 5 years, if you only do 3% increase, that's a 16% increase than when
That's
your
crazy.
original lease started.
Right. 16% increase from the start date, right? So it's again like, and those are the things like if you've not raised rates, like for me, that's a $2,000 when I look at mine, like hard dollars per month. So $25,000 annually that I need to account for moving forward, right? That's 10 clients. I mean, I need to be growing 10 clients like net positive just on that, just to keep up with that cost. Right. So again, things that you need to be thinking about. And then going through how to adjust that. Now, the other thing that people are a little bit more cognizant of is what I would consider like the self-inflicted wounds. Right. So these are the things that like this is like you cleaning up your own mess or you cleaning up somebody else's mess. Like, hey, I just structured this wrong and I don't really know what to do about it. Legacy rates, discounts, punch cards, limited memberships is a big one. Too many options. Like these are all things that like if you stack all of those things we just talked about, you're increasing costs across all of those, and then you stack these problems over here, you come up with like really big numbers, right? So when we do like the money map exercise with people when they come in, it's just like, hey, we just have to do a full scrub on their financials. This is one of the first things that we look at, which is like, what's the delta from where you're currently at based on all of the things that are broken? Like if we just whitewash this whole thing and be like, hey, if you just set this up the way you're supposed to right now, what would be the delta? And it's usually like insane amounts of money.
I mean, that's what happened to me when I took over my gym. Was like that was actually a buying point for me that I looked at ahead of time. Was like, oh, the memberships were a huge mess. We had like a bunch of different rates. I had some people paying like $60 a month, and nobody was really paying the advertised amount. Everybody was on some sort of discount, and so I knew from like day one, if I could just streamline everybody into a couple memberships, then all of a sudden, like I just make a huge jump, and I took a business that was like losing money to all of a sudden we're profitable.
Yeah, and so the question becomes like, hey, number one, like where do I look? Like where do I find, like what are all the things that would be broken or could be broken that I could fix, systematically, preferably in the right order that would right the ship or put me in a better position. Because again, at the end of the day, like we're never going to talk about price in the absence of value, but fundamentally your job as a business. It was funny. I was having a conversation. I think he'd be fine with it with Jay DeCoons the other day. And he's like, what's the idea of a good affiliate owner? Right. And this is a point of great contention within the community, to be honest with you, which I fully understand, by the way. But I said, hey, listen, I was like, well, I think we have to start from the lowest possible objective definition of an affiliate owner, which is a business owner. Like if you apply for an affiliation, this means that you are a for-profit small business. And by that singular metric, one of the metrics that we would have to measure that by would be like financial viability, meaning like you run a good business. Because if you think about it, there's no other business endeavor in which we would not use that as a metric of success. Okay. So we can't just say that that's not a thing that we would categorize. Now, does being financially successful, is that the only thing that you look at as being a good affiliate owner? No. However, it is a huge component of what makes you a good affiliate owner.
When that's where this like weird dichotomy comes in where people think I have to pick. Like I have to pick impact or I have to pick financials. I have to pick being mission driven or I have to pick running a business.
Yeah, and this is where I've had like heated conversations with somebody. I said, if you are a great trainer and your business is broke, then I cannot classify you as a good affiliate owner.
Mhm.
I just can't, because that's part of the equation, which is that'd be like saying uh, yeah, I'm only good at weightlifting, but I'm a good CrossFitter. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a good weightlifter, but
Mhm.
that's not the same as being a good CrossFitter, meaning I'm good across multiple modalities. And if we're going to talk about like what is a good affiliate owner, this has to be part of that discussion, and we should all be okay with talking about money. I'm not saying it's about the money, right? This is a service-based business. We're in the hospitality business, is like making people realize their best versions of themselves. To do that highly effectively, I would contend that you need appropriate cash flow so that you can train people and you can reinvest in the business. You can have good facilities, you can have all these other things that would get people to that desired end state. But again, ultimately, like, it is a small business. That is ultimately how you're going to be judged at the end of the day, like whether people like it or not. And again, that's one of those things where like you can like it or not like it, but like at the end of the day, that's how you're going to be judged, is like, did you run a successful box? Is like, did it thrive? Did you pay yourself? Were you able to create a career? Were you able to sell it for some meaningful amount of money? Is that fair? I think there's a good argument that that's not fair, that's how you be ultimately judged, but it is what it is. Like that's what you sign up for when you start a business, and it should be treated like a business. So
Well, even if you
I
haven't
don't
wrapped
think we
your
need to
mind
beat a dead
around
horse there, but I
that
think
yet, like even if you haven't wrapped your mind around that yet, at the bare minimum, if you want to make an impact and like you want to be mission driven, you have to stay open. And to like going back to our
you have to
conversation
stay
where it's
open,
like
right?
if you're not accounting for like your increased costs, um, and you're not growing, like you're a ticking time bomb, you're a sand dial. Eventually you're gonna close. Even if you stay, like you said, if you stay stagnant, costs are going up, and that eventually like your costs are gonna meet your revenue if you're not growing, and then you're gonna have to close.
And I've been there before. I'm just like, well, nothing feels because like, here's an interesting one. Most like softwares will send you like a year-end recap. And then I couldn't count the number of years. I'm just like, it's the same number. Like I started the year with this number and I ended with this number, like revenue, members. But the one delta there is just like, oh, less profitability or no profit whatsoever in that scenario. I'm like, how is that possible? And it's because I was not accounting for some of these things and being proactive about it. Right. So the first step is be reactive because you have no other chance. But then the no other option. But the second option is like, well, let me think ahead now. How do I start to plan for this? But in order to plan for it, you have to know where these things would break. So again, controllables, uncontrollables, and then things that are predictable, but or unpredictable, right? And ideally, I would plan around the things that are kind of like probable, not necessarily possible. And that's a whole nother mental model to wrap your brain around. But like, what are the things that are likely going to happen that you're likely to have to deal with? Like, make all of your plans around that. If it's possible, put it off to the side. I don't necessarily, we don't need to do a ton of, know that it could happen. But what I would tell you is just like deal when it happens. So now the self-inflicted wounds are I'm not accounting for the things that I know are going to happen, or I'm just not correcting prior mistakes, right? So thinking legacy prices, I've got too many options, I've got limited, I've got punch cards, um, and all of these things become problematic with regard to like making a good decision so that you can project forward. So when you're thinking about finances generally, um, amateurs deal in this is like this is the saying is that like amateurs deal in budgets, professionals deal in projections.
Mm.
Now, this is not to say like whether you're an amateur or a pro. That's not the point. The point is like uh, being budget conscious is a prerequisite to running proper projections. So just understanding your general cash flow, how much is coming in and how much is going out, would give you the opportunity to then potentially be able to run good projections. So, and one of the things you would need to that would help you run good projections if you had a really good understanding of like what is the breakdown of your cash. meaning like the cash that comes in, how does that break out by recurring memberships, by retail, by premium services? Because what this allows me to do is this allows me to dissect effectively what are different buckets of money. And now I can start to figure out like, where is my greatest lever or series of levers that I'm going to pull on that are going to help me move to the target. So the simple way to look at this is you could have, we'll use really round numbers here. So let's just say you have you want to grow the business by 20%, right? Let's just say that it does $10,000 a month, right? Gross revenue. I want to grow by 20%. That means I want to grow by $2,000 a month, or $25,000 or $20,000 a year. Okay. There's multiple ways I can do that. The old Tony Robbins adage is like, well, I can grow a business 3 ways, right? I can get more clients, I can charge more money, or I can sell another thing. Okay. Now, the problem that usually happens, that's a compounding problem, is that people choose one thing, right? So like, well, I'm going to grow by 20% member base. Now, this is before the fact that they have no actual like strategy for growth. It's just the hope and pray method, right? Meaning like, hey, how you tell me how you're going to retain better and how you're going to get 20 more clients this year. And I don't mean just hoping that they hit your website. Like, what is your active strategy to grow by net 20 this year?
Or don't I just need more leads?
20% is a big jump membership growth, right? Depending on where you're at. Like as you grow to a larger size gym, 20%, it becomes more and more unrealistic, right? If you're below 100, 20% is very realistic. If you're at 300, 20% is an enormous number for net growth, right? Or you could be like, well, I'm just going to charge 20% more. I'm like, listen, having taken, I don't know, hundreds, if not over 1,000 affiliate owners through price increases, I can tell you almost nobody is comfortable with a 20% price increase. Like, people shit their pants over $5, much less going from, I don't know, 150 to 175, right? That would be a 20% increase.
Push Press is the easiest full suite software that you can get to run your business.
One of the best things about Push Press, I would say, is the customer service. Hands down, they are the best. We know them all by name. They hear a lot from us.
They know us.
And they know us, but they're there to help you. And they're also gym owners, so they understand. They are out of this world and helping their clients and just have a true passion for helping gym owners. They're so good with customer service.
If you're not using it and your business is ready for it, or you're having stress with the system you're using, it's a no-brainer to give them a call.
Before we found Push Press, managing different things was very complicated and confusing, and so we just needed something that was more user-friendly.
If I had to describe Push Press, it would be comprehensive, because they really understand what a gym owner needs, and they give us all the tools that we need to be successful. In fact, I don't think I've ever talked to somebody from Push Press that didn't own a gym. So they understood, and I immediately connected with the people there, and the products that they gave me were just, this is everything I needed. Like, where have you guys been my whole life?
The best way that I can describe Push Press is absolutely phenomenal.
If I had a gym owner friend that didn't have Push Press, I would tell them that it's life-changing when it comes to having more time to work on the business, and the support is coming from other gym owners that are trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do.
All right, guys, if you like this content, please subscribe to the podcast, but understand we work with affiliates. If you are interested in building your business, understanding strategy, building a better community, and building better coaches and careers for them, hit the link somewhere around this video, and we'd love to have a call with you.
We noticed a lot of like affiliate owners like come in too. They come in and they realize like, or in their mind, I need more members. And I might even know that like whatever I did with pricing, I screwed it up. I've got legacy rates, I've got too many options, and I know I need to clean it up. I'm not really sure what to do. And so now they're like, do I try to put more, do I try to get more members and then shove them into this crappy system? Do I fix the crappy system? And there's more options than that.
Yeah. So it's looking at that and saying, okay, well, how do I start to identify where my opportunities lie? Right? Because it'll just go with the big three, right? There are more than that, spoiler alert, but let's just go with the big three, right? More members, increase price, sell another thing. We didn't really talk about sell another thing. This one, I think, is one of the biggest bogeys for affiliate owners. Okay. And here's why. Number one, I'm going to lead with, I have no problem with people selling premium services, PT, nutrition, none of that. I have no beef with it whatsoever. My beef lies in the reasoning and strategy in execution, right? So if we cut right to the chase, the reason people sell premium services is typically because they just need more revenue. Okay. Which is fine, right? What I'm saying is, like, if we get past that and we go to root cause, I want to know why you need more revenue. This either means like your pricing system is broke, you have a client acquisition problem, or your churn is fucked up. So, and a major no-no of selling more things to your current client base is you cannot sell more things to your current client base if they're unhappy. If your prices are broken, you don't think you're going to have a problem selling premium services to people that are on a broken pricing system? Also not going to work. And all I'm simply trying to highlight is here, if I only choose one of those buckets to try to play in, the effort required to get to the 20% is significantly more risky. I don't need any more risk put into my business. It's already there. My job is to mitigate risk. So alternatively, what you could say is like, okay, well, how about I just try to get 7% increase across all three? So again, using easy math here, it's like, okay, well, if I'm at 100, let me go to 107 clients. Seems much more reasonable. And I'm a huge fan of moving the goalpost closer, right? Then I'm going to maybe increase by 7%. So I'm going to go from 150 to what, like 162 or something like that, roughly. And then maybe I can figure out, okay, I'm going to sell about 7% more in premium services or merch or supplements, right? Or a combination of all three of those would amount to about $700 in this $10,000 a month gym. The reason I give that example is because, like, everybody that's listening to this right now, like, heard all of those numbers and are like, I can do that. But that's 20%. Right? If we just said 20% out of one bucket, you're like, okay, that seems problematic. But if I said get 7 out of 3 buckets, you're much more likely to get there. And even if you missed on one of them, you're still up 14%.
Yeah. And how, like, nobody's going to be mad that they grew by 14%.
Nobody's going to be mad about that, right? And just to go back to the example that I gave before, if you were a $10,000 a month gym and your price is going to increase by $10,000 next year, that alone covers all of that and more. So now I'm ahead of this simply by looking at that. So again, like, whether you are thinking about this or not, you really don't have an option, right? It needs to be something that you're planning for. So maybe you don't have to fix anything that's broken. Maybe you're happy with your pricing structure. Maybe you're happy with all of that. But if you're not planning to make up for that increased cost, mistake. If you are planning for the increased cost, but you're doing it and you're doing it without fixing your broken stuff, also a mistake. You're probably still going to fall short on that scenario. And if you don't fix the broken stuff, meaning you have a legacy rates and all this other stuff, you're just kicking the can down the road for later. Like, you're still going to have that problem later on, and I'm still going to have to fix it. So just that very simple example of like 777% now becomes a very real number, because again, like, if again, we'll use football because it's football season, but if I walk onto the field, right, it's now our possession. Yes, I want to score a touchdown, but like, my first target is a first down, is 10 yards. Yeah. It's not like, all right, guys, we're going to try to throw it for the end zone immediately, right? We're like, no.
Just going to every play is a Hail Mary.
Yeah, every play is a Hail Mary. And that's the equivalent of how most gym owners are planning. And instead of saying like, listen, smart plays, throw the check down, right? Get a first down, and then we'll do it again, right?
Yeah,
Because
instead what they end up doing is they get no yard gain, and then all of a sudden it's 4th down, and they go for a Hail Mary again, and you
yes,
made no yard gain, and what happened? You lost the ball.
right, and you're just like, oh, okay, so this is you're like, I need money. I'm like ads, and I'm like, okay, again, no beef with ads, right? I have tons of beef with people that are running ads that shouldn't be running ads, are not prepared to run ads, and they're running them for the wrong reasons. And the reason I have a problem with it is because it will be your demise.
Mhm.
That's why I have a problem with it. Not because I have a problem with ads. I have a problem because it will kill your business if done out of place and for the wrong reasons and with no understanding of like, how is this going to get me to that goal? Right? We won't even go down the rabbit hole of like understanding truly what your cost of acquisition is. So is that an even appropriate ad spend? Like, separate discussion altogether. But the point is like, if you don't understand some of the basics surrounding the topic, then you make poor decisions. So
Well, and what we talked about earlier when you were talking about like controllable versus predictable is like everybody jumps to leads when it's something that like you don't have you have very little control over. And once you get to like, and you have to earn your way into starting to have that control with paid ads. And it's like, we got to go and look at the things that you can control first, which is like, you can
yes,
control your pricing, you can control your churn, you can control like there's all these
you
things that
can
you can
control your
control.
so this is a good kind of segue about like this controllables versus predictable. But like anytime we look at, if we're looking at lead flow specifically, right? So like, again, going into planning 2026, when you are mapping out this growth, so let's just say it's 7%, like then the question is like, well, how do I get 7 people and net 7 for the year? Well, you're going to need to know what your churn. If your churn is 7%, I would start there, right? Get it under 5, right? Because I can mathematically map that out. Like that could be how you beat your cost increase next year. Is like, we'll just keep more clients and your revenue will climb if you do that. So you would need to know that. But then when we're talking about like, how do I go to the controllables? Well, one is anytime you're talking about lead flow, there's a very basic order of operations, which is like, make sure that you've done everything you can for inbound search to make it as easy for somebody to find you and give you information as possible. The end, right? The second thing I would look at after that is, now I'm going to look at my sales funnel. Like, how many people are coming in and how many do I convert and what happens between those 2 points, right? And then the third thing is like, okay, now I'm going to start adjusting the offer potentially. Well, if I know with good predictability, I can get this many people in. And then I have control of how I design the sales process, right? How fast I follow up, what I say, when I book, how the sales process goes, how I deliver the offer. Like these are all controllables. At which point you can start to predict with good confidence what your close rate will be. Okay, so now I don't necessarily have control of that. I have control of the process. I don't have control of necessarily how many I get. So it's like like unpredictable with some control. And that's the first step, right? So like looking at those controls, control what you can control. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you start to control the front end. Like I can control how many leads pop in there. And if I've done my homework, I now can start to run basic math problems of like, well, if I dump 40 on the front end, I'll get 25 out the back end. And if I can do that consistently, I can start to predict growth.
Yeah, but if you know how your sales process performs, and then on average how many people stay, well, then it's not a big deal to just like, okay, now we can talk about ads and how it's like, how do I pour more things into this funnel? But if you have no idea where people are leaking out, and maybe the funnel's not even going into anything, it's just pouring onto the floor. It's like you got to make sure you got a bucket underneath, before you even start pouring anything in there.
So again, like thinking about these things, like and I would contend this is like, most people just need to make, this is going to sound weird, right? They need to make smaller goals that result in larger outcomes, right? So at the end of the day, like the old saying is like, growth is not a goal. Growth is an outcome of a series of behaviors done consistently and consistently well. So like you can just be like, hey, that's the target, right? Growth right? Or this is what I want to do. So the other way that you would say this is like, okay, the target that we're shooting for is 20% growth. Okay, great. That's the outcome I'm chasing. It's not the goal. The goal would be understanding how we would get there and executing on all of those things. Would be like, okay, let's identify what we need to fix in our pricing structure and let's get that in order. What are the levers that we can pull and start to put in place in order to get to that 20%? Okay, we need to adjust the sales on the front end. We need to fix our website. We need to get legacy rates up. We need to do that. These are all the things. Those become the goal now, not the 20%. The 20% is the outcome that I'm chasing based on getting all of these things in order. So if you've not adjusted your pricing structure, if you've not looked at billing cycle, if you've not looked at agreements, if you've not looked at passing on fees, if you've not looked at correcting your legacy rates, if you've not adjusted for your increased costs, like these are all things that you have at your disposal. And for the record, you don't have to do them all at once. I would probably not do them all at once, but I would figure out which ones can I do now, because I've not seen a gym yet that didn't have 1 to 2 of those apply to them at any given point. So I'm like, if you're listening to this, it applies to you, 100% of you, because we know inflation and all the other increasing costs apply to you. And depending on where you're at, that cost could be enormous. I've seen some people, depending on where they're at, where their energy costs are outrageous, like electricity or heat, like crazy expenses, you know. People's rents have been doing some funky stuff depending on what market you're in.
Mine did. I had to move.
Right.
Spaces this year because
Right.
my rent was going to double.
Right. And here's kind of like, this is probably like a good place to kind of like, I would say, how do I wrap this up, but kind of button up the whole topic, which is there are things you have control of and there are things you don't have control of. There are things that are predictable and there are things that are unpredictable. All of those can be summed up in one of two ways: the probable and the possible. If I make my plan according to the probable factors that with high likelihood are going to happen to me, that I have control over, that will give me the opportunity to survive the possible. The possible are things like COVID, right? Could that happen? Yes. Is it likely? No. Okay. But if I've taken care of all of the things that I know are probable, I'm in a much better opportunity or a much better position to survive these one-off anomalies or things that I don't have control over. Your state has crazy legislature that comes through and you got to pay extra money to operate, right? Your whatever, the politics change in your state and all of a sudden taxes increase, right? Your property taxes go up because the assessments changed this year. Like these are all things that like you don't necessarily have control of, but are probable, that you could probably with good confidence predict on some sort of reasonable timeline. So it's like looking at those things and say, okay, in 2026, what of those things do I need to be accounting for? And then how would I plan for those things in my pricing structure moving forward in 2026? What do I need to start planning for and then putting in place? And like, what does that rollout plan look like? But at the end of the day, like these things are going to happen to you. So if you don't have to do it this year, you for sure will have to do it the year after that. So again, I want people to start thinking about this, but simplify it for yourself. Probable or possible. If it's possible, don't worry about it. If it's probable, let's plan for it. 3 big buckets. I can either grow my membership base, I can increase my price, or I can sell more things. Which one of those you're going to do and how that becomes the question. Okay. And that's what I want you guys to start thinking about. So we just wanted to start to kind of like plant that seed for people that are thinking about it. If you want to know more about this, like we're going to run a full webinar on this. So if you're interested, click the link, register for the webinar. We're going to get deep into the weeds on this. There'll be like a lot of math going on in there. But you're going to want to register for the webinar because we are going to go deep into this by the numbers. It won't be like 30,000 feet. It will be very, very specific. We're going to run multiple scenarios. We'll look at a bunch of different stuff in there, and we're going to give you guys access to some different tools. If you guys register for the webinar, that will help you unpack this problem. So if that is the case, Christian, I think the link will be in the show notes for this probably, or
yep.
somewhere.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, it's when you were talking, that I reminded me back what you said in the beginning, where it's like nutrition, where it's like you got to figure out like, hey, what's your goal? Okay, cool. That requires you to know like, one, where am I at? Where do I want to be? And then what's the combination of habits plus tracking that I need to combine to move in that direction? And if you've ever done nutrition coaching, which if you're listening to this, you probably have, where it's like, it starts with like, eat your protein, eat vegetables, let's track water. And then all of a sudden it turns into like tracking MyFitnessPal, and we're going to tweak protein. We're going to tweak carbs. And ultimately, like, your client realizes like, oh, I didn't need to turn my whole world upside down to lose 20 pounds. I just needed to tweak a couple of these things. And we're going to lay out the business part of that on that webinar by showing the 7 levers that you can pull. So you don't have to just rely on member growth. You can pull each lever a little bit and ultimately end up meeting and beating your goals for 2026.
And more importantly than that, knowing based on where your gym is at, like which one of those levers is the best option for you. Because a gym that is running whatever, a gym that's in, like, if you think about, like, we can drop this in there too. So we'll drop the link for the affiliate blueprint in there. So looking at phases 1 through 7 from 0 to 1 million, like, there are things that are more impactful at different phases than others, right? A $5 increase when you're running $10,000 a month and you have less than 100 clients is not the same as a $5 increase at 400 clients across everybody. Like, the math changes, right? Like, think this is like the Amazon effect, right? Like, Amazon moving a button that gets them a 0.001% increase in sales is $1 billion, right? So it's understanding, like, what are the ones that are most unique or most valuable to me in that stage? Like, okay, maybe it is premium services. Maybe it is you need to raise your prices. Maybe it is time for you to move to forward billing. But like, looking at those and figuring out, like, which one is it? Is it 2? Is it 3? Do I have the ability to pull multiple levers at the same time? That's going to depend on where you're at. So just like nutrition, this is going to be unique to the gym because every gym is slightly different. They're all running the same model, right? They're all operating in similar ecosystems. But at the end of the day, like, if you're a gym that has been around for a while, that's larger, this is going to be a different strategy than somebody who's getting off of the ground and trying to correct some mistakes that you made 5 years ago. So, again, register for the webinar. We'll go into the weeds on that. And again, we'll send out the details for all of that, but super, the goal again, as always, to give you guys as much value as humanly possible, but to dive deep into this so that you have a much better understanding of, like, things that you that you should consider, and then what are the potential solutions that you have at your disposal.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be confusing. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you don't have to just take it.
What do you mean?
Like, you don't have to just take, like we were talking about, things are going to be more expensive, and you don't have to just like lay down and take inflation. You don't have to lay down and just take your rent increase. Like, there's things that you can do about it. Yeah.
And we'll close with this. Like, every business owner really truly only wants one thing: control. In order to have control, there are some things that you need to understand, and then you need to control those controllables. So if that is something you're interested in, register for the webinar, and we'll see you guys there. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.